tons of red flags from the top teams. You talk about how Quinnipiac struggles to beat some of those top teams. Marist has the same issue. They did split their regular season series against one another, but outside that, there have not been too many games where either squad has beaten a top team. We talked about St. Peter's struggles on the road and at neutral sites. So, like I said in one of our Instagram shorts, which is also on TikTok, shout out to JJ for doing all the social media work here for MAAC Mania. I'm a big fan of Siena and Merrimack as being those two teams that make it to the finals. But of course, there are other squads, and what's important is rolling in hot. The Stags are doing just that. A win at home against Sacred Heart, and then traveling to Hamden with another victory. Very successful week against the fellow Connecticut schools. They outscored the Pios, like we said earlier, by 15 in the second half.
Yeah, this Fairfield team is hot to say the least. They've won seven of their last nine games. While everyone is focused on Merrimack's nine-game win streak, it's the Stags that have been just destroying teams. They obviously picked up that win against Sacred Heart, which was huge, followed by the win against Quinnipiac. Braden Sparks has been electric, 17 points a game. He's 40% from the three-point line. He's really just kind of a thermostat for this Fairfield team because if he's hot, the team's hot. And when this team is hot, they are so good. Brandon Benjamin, he's making a push for maybe even the rookie of the year. If it's not Kennedy, he's been amazing. 14 points a game, 10 and a half rebounds. And if I'm Merrimack or Siena, I'm doing everything in my power to avoid the Stags team because they have all the momentum. They have sharpshooters, they have Sparks, they have Benjamin. They really have everyone, and they could really spoil some of these top teams in this MAC tournament.
The Mount is a squad that just swept the Buffalo schools at home. Do you think that they're going to clinch a bye? And if not, JJ, where do they finish?
I don't think Mount St. Mary's will get a bye. I do think they will stay around the area that they are right now, which is in the seven spot, maybe even the six spot. But with the way this Fairfield team is playing, I don't see a way that they jump over this Fairfield team, especially playing them the last game of the season, also playing the Sacred Heart team. I could honestly see this Mount team losing these next two games. I know they've won four in a row, but three of those teams were Ryder, Niagara, and Canisius, the bottom three teams. And you're playing two Fairfield teams, which are very good. We know how good Sacred Heart can be. We know how good Fairfield is. And I really don't see Mount making any movement in the standings this last week of the season. And I think they'll stay about put in that seven spot and play in that 7-8 matchup.
It's almost a guarantee that they lock in the seven seed if they are not to move up to that six or even that five spot. So I agree with you, JJ. I don't think that they're going to get a bye. I think they're going to lock in at the seven, which will not result in playing the Iona Gales most likely, barring a total collapse this last week, because this is a team that is rolling in hot. Two overtime contests. Like we said earlier, three total overtime periods. They only needed one to get the victory against St. Peter's, and then a double OT loss at Merrimack. They almost defeated the Warriors on the road and broke that Merrimack home winning streak, which is so impressive at 11 games this season. Seemingly, Iona is just that kind of a program that can upset any team, regardless of how good the opposition is. And I think this especially helps in Atlantic City because if you're the 8-9 seed, you are going to end up playing a top two seed if you were to win that first initial matchup. And the Gales are hot at just the right time. So, how impressed are you with the resilience of Dan Giroux's squad?
Yeah, the Iona team, they might have lost, but they gained a lot of respect against Merrimack. We've seen it earlier in the year. They beat Merrimack. They are one of two teams to beat that Merrimack squad, which they won by one. Yes, they have lost some questionable games. They are the most inconsistent team, but when they're playing good basketball, they are probably the best team in the MAC. And that's without saying that CJ Anthony has been electric for this Iona team. 15 points a game. He's averaging 5 assists per game. And then Layman Bali, he's shooting almost 58% from the field, which is absolutely insane. Like I said, they're super inconsistent, but we've seen them beat these top teams. They've beat Merrimack. They've beat Siena. They've beat Sacred Heart. They've beat all of these teams, which means they could do something scary. Obviously, they'll finish with Ryder and Manhattan, which are probably two easier games. Obviously, Manhattan could throw an upset in there, but they've got momentum. They're rolling in hot after two overtime thrillers and almost beating this Merrimack team. So Iona is honestly one of my favorites to make the MAAC championship.
I think outside of that Siena Merrimack perennial contenders, I have to agree with you. Iona's a squad that I'm really liking going into the tournament, especially because mid-major schools, it's kind of a toss-up with NIL, but Iona University is all in on it. And another beauty about mid-majors is not every single one of them have a football team. Obviously, in collegiate sports, football is the primary option. Your ACCs, your Big East tend not to have football programs, so I'll leave the Big East aside. But your ACCs, your SECs, your Big Tens, your Big 12s, their main priority and their main focus is their football program. But Iona does not have a football program. So what's the next most important on the list? Men's basketball. And they are all in on the men's basketball side. That's why they have such a talented and great head coach in terms of resume and previous institutions that he's worked for and places that he's worked at. I mean, the NBA and that NIL really helps them out and could propel them to a victory over Manhattan to close out the season. The Jaspers played one game this week. They lost to Marist. Where do you think that they lie, especially without Will Sidnor for the entire season? And yes, we are allowed to say that, but according to Manhattan Jasper game notes, we're only allowed to mention that once, according to their broadcaster segment, which I think is a little interesting. They have a section on their game notes that says broadcaster tips. They say only mention once about Sidnor's NCAA eligibility and why he's not playing because of it.
Yeah, it's very interesting for this Manhattan team to say the least. But they, I kind of like where they're sitting right now. They're right in the middle of the standings. They're fighting with Sacred Heart, trying not to slip into that 10 spot. And just like that Iona team, they're a very confusing team because they can score 90 points one night, but they could also score 60 the next. And they allow the most points in the MAC at 79, almost 80 points a game, which is a ton, especially as a mid-major team. But when you look at it, Terrence Jones, he's been really amazing for this Manhattan team. He dropped a career high 29 points, which was the most by a Jasper in a single game this season. He went 10 for 18 from the field, and he kind of showed that, yes, Manhattan might lose some of these games, but they still have life. They still have a chance to make some noise. That loss against Maris was definitely rough, but right before that, they were on a three-game win streak. Sacred Heart, Niagara, Canisius. Obviously, Niagara and Canisius, we can mention them. They aren't as strong as a team like Sacred Heart, but they've played some close games against some top teams. They lost by 5 to St. Peter's. They've played a closer game with Merrimack earlier in the year, only losing by 6 and beat Quinnipiac right before that. So again, with these mid-major teams, anything can really happen. But there are some red flags with them. They obviously have struggled against top teams. They've struggled against some of the lower teams in the conference as well. So I like where they're sitting in the 9 spot. I don't know if they'll hold on to the 9 spot. They might slip to the 10 depending on what Sacred Heart does. But again, this Manhattan team, they obviously had a bye week and they've got some promising pieces and they've got a promising offense. It's just really the defense that concerns me.
Jaden Winston with 1,000 career points as well. He hit that mark against Marist. And funny enough, Anquan Hill also hit his 1,000th point against the Red Foxes. Sacred Heart lost at Fairfield, and then, of course, to the Red Foxes at McCann Arena. In my opinion, JJ, they are still one of the most talented teams in the conference. It's just a question of can that talent mold together in Atlantic City?
And that is the best question you could have asked right there, is if they can mold together. They have four scorers over 10 points a game. Obviously, Anquan Hill leading the way with almost 18 points a game and 7 rebounds. Deshaun Gittins at 14 points, Niall Ralph Byer at 14 points, and then Jan Farrell at 12 points. So they have all of the talent in the world. They were picked third in the preseason poll for the MAC. It just hasn't come together. We mentioned it last week. It's kind of like a Xavier. It's kind of like a St. John's. They needed time to fold and mold together, and they haven't done that yet. It seems like one player can have a good night and the rest of the team won't. Two players could have a good night, the rest of the team won't. They need to find a way to get everyone involved, play less solo ball, which kind of seems like they have been doing. They play a lot of ISO ball, which kind of limits their offensive possession. And that's kind of what happened against Maris. Mackay Connor kind of took a lot of ISO opportunities and started missing some of his shots, and that's when Maris went on this run. And that is something that's concerning about the Sacred Heart team is we keep saying, "Oh, when are they going to mold together? When are they going to mold together?" They have one game left in the season and they still haven't molded together. They haven't played as a team really at all this year. And I don't think it's a question of when they are going to. I think it's a question of if they are going to because they haven't done it all year and time's running out. You're heading into the MAAC tournament. You're in the 10 seed right now. It's got to come against Mount this last game of the year. And if it doesn't come, it's not going to come at all.
You mentioned both Patinos, Italians, just like Anthony Latino, the head coach of Sacred Heart. And he's really got to work his squad, mold them together, just like both Patinos did at St. John's and Xavier, respectively. Let's quickly discuss the eliminated teams. Niagara lost at the Mount and then lost at Ryder, as we mentioned earlier, eliminated on Friday. The Golden Griffs did get a victory in Lawrenceville, but then dropped a contest to the Mount in Emmitsburg, Maryland. As for the Bronx, they lost to the Griffs, as we mentioned earlier, and then beat the Purple Eagles. That's all that we got on our storyline segment. Let's kick it over to our final segment about the players of the week and maybe even the player of the year. We're getting near that time. JJ Garcia and myself, Mike Duda, will join you shortly for that.